Good morning and happy Monday, fourth graders. I hope everyone had a great weekend and got outside. It was beautiful on Saturday. It's Miss Brisson here, and we are going to be starting a new book and a new lesson this week. Today and tomorrow, we're going to be reading Young Pele, Soccer's First Star, and we're going to be focusing on something called author's purpose. So before I get into the book, I just want to go over author's purpose with you a little bit. Sometimes you might have heard a teacher say it's as easy as pie. So there are three types of author's purpose, a reason that an author will write a book or a passage or something in the text. The first reason might be to persuade the reader. Persuade means convince. So they want to convince the reader to think or feel a certain way. Another reason they might write something is to inform, to teach the reader about something. So as you know, with informational, the root word is inform. So we know that inform means you are learning about true facts. So they're teaching you something. And then another reason they might write a book or a passage or even a part of the text would be to entertain. Now, another word for entertain is to enjoy. So the writer, is trying to make the reader feel something, maybe feel happy or think something's funny. Or as we know, sometimes books are sad, so they're making you feel those feelings and get a reaction. You can have all three purposes in one text, and that's what I'm going to show you today as we go through Young Pele, Soccer's First Star. So remember, it is nonfiction and it is a biography. I'm not sure if you know about Pele, but Pele is known as the most famous soccer player there ever was. He is still alive, and there is an optional video on today's lesson that you can watch to learn a little bit more about Pele. We're going to include a video every day of just some of the highlights of his soccer career, but he was an amazing soccer player. But this book actually goes through his life as a young boy. So before we knew him as Pele, his name was Edson. So I want you to just kind of think about what you already know about him, if you know anything, and activate your background knowledge. We're going to be reading this nonfiction biography text. I'm going to read some of it today. And I'm just going to give you a quick blurb of what the text is about. I know you can't see, but you can just listen. Discover how one poor young Brazilian boy went from kicking rocks in the schoolyard to becoming one of soccer's most famous players of all time. Beautifully illustrated with handsome oil paintings. Yes, the illustrations are beautiful, you'll see. This inspirational biography captivates readers as they learn about how young Edson's great determination, lightning speed, and amazing skill enabled him to overcome difficult challenges to become the world champion soccer, Pele. Be sure to share the author's note at the end of the book, which goes into detail about Pele's accomplishments, the reasons why the author chose to write about this memorable athlete. So we will read the author's note at the end as well. All right, so and you can see right away, a beautiful oil painting or illustration. As I'm reading, I want you to just be thinking about why the author might have written this text. Why did she write this biography about Pele? And remember, do you think it is to entertain us, to inform us or teach us something, or to persuade us to think or feel a certain way? So I just want that to be in the back of your mind as I'm going through this text. All right, so let's get started. Young Pele, soccer's first star. In a tiny schoolhouse at the edge of the road in Bauru, Brazil, sat a young boy with just a hint of a smile on his face. He stared straight ahead at the chalkboard as his teacher spoke, but his mind was miles away. And there is young Edson. So we know that he lives in Brazil. Though he was the smallest in his class, 8-year-old Edson sat tall at his desk. While others memorized letters, Edson memorized scores from last night's soccer match. While others practiced adding and subtracting, Edson practiced kicking an imaginary soccer ball. And while others heard the teacher calling out numbers and words, Edson heard an announcer calling a game. And you'll notice that the font changes. It goes from normal font to italicized. With just seconds left, Edson takes the ball, past one defender and then another. Now he's all alone, only the goalie between him and the goal. Edson, 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 the fans shout, but Edson stays focused. He bears down. He drives a kick to the right. The ball hits the goalpost, spins back, and flies through the goalie's hands straight into... So right now, excuse me, we have our first purpose. So I want you to be looking at just the italicized portion and just think about what you think the author's purpose is for writing this part of the text. Why did she write this? So remember, we have to persuade, which is to convince you to think or feel or do something. They're not persuading you to feel a certain way or think a certain way here. To teach or inform you of something. These are not really true facts, so this wouldn't be to inform. Or to entertain. Now with entertain comes a lot of descriptive language, which we have talked about with main idea. So it's a lot of detail and description. The announcer is doing a really good job of this, giving you detailed description so that you can visualize in your mind him dribbling past the defenders and going to the goal. So I have my chart here, and just like our normal 3-table charts, we've got our page number. Now there's not page numbers on this, but I am going to put page 4. And we have our first purpose. So this purpose is to entertain. And then we're going to get that information from the text. So I'm going to say that this is descriptive, literary language, which just means descriptive details. And it's the announcer. Speaking about Edson. Remember, this was only in his mind, though. He was kind of daydreaming. Okay, so that's the evidence that shows me that this was to entertain. I'm going to draw my line. And you do not have to do this chart with me today, but you can if you want, because I do think it is very helpful to just have it all, because we're going to be reading this book throughout the week. So let's keep on reading. All right. Edson de Cemento, how many times must I call you? His teacher leaned in closer. Now you'll have to learn the hard way. Move. Edson walked past his classmates' desks, past their snickers, a snicker is a laugh, and whispers to a corner where he knelt and waited. The final school bell would ring soon, and he would go home and practice. In Edson's backyard, a torn, dirty net hung in the shade of a mango tree. A group of boys huddled there, struggling to find a team name. Suggestions were made and shot down, but then one name was shouted out, and everyone knew it was perfect. September 7 it would be, after Brazilia's National Independence Day. So just like we have July 4th as our Independence Day, they have September 7th. So we've got another purpose. So this is page 5. And I'm going to focus on that September 7th. We just learned that September 7th is Brazil's National Independence Day. So we have learned a new fact. What do you think that purpose would be? Think back. Persuade, inform, entertain. The writer has taught us something, so it is to inform. And what did she inform us? September 7th is Brazil's Independence Day. Okay, so as you can see, there can be multiple purposes within a text. And here's the illustration of all the boys getting together, trying to decide on their team name. I love these pictures. Each afternoon, the team practiced in Edson's backyard or along potholed roads and dirt-packed fields, kicking up clouds of dust so thick the players could barely see the ball. As daylight faded, mothers' voices called boys home one by one. Sergino, Nilo, Shode, Lucino, Dino, Valdo, Edson. And just a quick note with names, if you're ever unsure of how to pronounce a name, don't spend a lot of time trying to read it. Just use the first letter. See you tomorrow, Edson would shout as he grabbed his ball. A sock stuffed with rags rolled up and tied with string. Then he'd head home. So their ball was just a sock that they stuffed with rags and rolled it up and tied it with string. It wasn't even a real soccer ball. So we know that they were very poor, and that is what they used to make it work. Edson lived with his parents, Donino and Donna Celeste, his grandma, and his younger brother and sister. Donino had once been a fine soccer player, but a knee injury had destroyed his dream of playing for a pro team. After supper and into the night, he and Edson would listen to matches on the radio, soccer matches, straining to hear the announcers through the static. Going up, across to, beautiful kick, goal. And you can see them watch or listening to the radio, no TV. Donna Celeste stayed away, fussing about the two of them wasting their time. When Edson finally went back to bed, he'd close his eyes, then fast forward to all the players he'd try and practice the next day. If I pass to Nilo, then fake left past Sade. Nilo can kick a high pass back to me, and I'll head into the goal. Too late, he'd fall asleep, still clutching his ball of sock and string. Clutching means just holding it tightly. All right, this is the last page we're going to read today. On the way to school every morning, Edson liked to kick one rock, then another, until he was kicking rocks from side to side, dribbling around people's feet and into potholes. Score! All right. So what I want you to do is, as we finish, I want you to be thinking about, these are your exit tickets for today, and they will be on the chart, but I'm going to put them here. I want you to think about what can you infer about Edson and how he feels about soccer? So that's going to be my first question. Make an inference about Edson or young Pele's feelings about the sport of soccer. And then I also want to know, how do his parents feel about it? How do you think they feel about him and his focus on soccer and school? And then your third task is going to be to give me a quick definition of each of the three authors' purpose: to persuade, to inform, and to entertain. Okay, so I'm going to read the last page, and then that is what is going to be your exit ticket for today. When the morning bell rang, his thoughts were so focused on perfecting his plays that he rarely even heard it. School only got worse. Edson's teachers dreamed up punishments they thought would make him pay attention. For talking in class, his mouth was stuffed with paper. For fooling around at his desk, he was made to kneel on beans, and you can see that picture. So that's really painful. Can you imagine if we still had those kind of punishments in school? Although his parents warned him to behave and punished him when he didn't, Edson soon decided it was easier to skip school altogether and play soccer. So that's the last page we're going to read today. I want you to infer how Edson feels about the sport, how his parents feel about him and the sport of soccer, and then I want you to give me 3 quick definitions of the 3 authors' purpose. All of this will be on the daily assignments as well. And we'll continue reading tomorrow. All right, guys, have a good Monday.